Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Very nice to see 30 over of us who are joining us today for this very special and interesting webinar titled Salutogenesis and Digitalization. My name is Shefali. I'm an academic from National University of Singapore. And it's my honor and privilege today to host this webinar. And I think I am too small and too inexperienced in front of the luminaries and the esteemed speakers we have in line today for this webinar. And I will be introducing them shortly. But before we start the webinar, I have a few requests because it's a very cozy group, only 30 over us, though I'm sure as the webinar unfolds, we have about 100 over participants who have registered for today's webinar. May I request, if it is okay with you, those who can on your cameras, thank you very much for on your camera. It seems that we are talking to humans, but those for whatever reasons you can't on your cameras, absolutely no issues with that. But may I request if you can, in the chat box, introduce yourself, your name, and where you are from. So at least we can see the parts of the world who are joining us today for this webinar. So we'll take about 2-3 minutes. And those who are okay to unmute and speak, I'm also okay with that. But I think in order to keep ourselves on time, it would be best that we just use the chat box, and I'll be very happy to read out the people who are from different parts of the world. So may I request you, please? We'll take about 2 minutes to introduce ourselves by typing in the chat box, where are you joining us from? Thank you. Thank you very much, Craig. So I also appreciate, the Zoom has now gone very advanced. You can actually give thumbs up as you are reading and seeing people are from different parts of the world. Thank you so much. Turkey, Norway. There's a bit of a lag on my end. I'm seeing that the messages are coming. We have a very, very heavy thunderstorm today. So yeah. So I decided to stay in the office. It's 8 p.m. here in Singapore because I don't trust the internet connection back home. So I thought I want to have a stable connection today. NTNU, I can see a lot of people from NTNU, I think, supporting Prof. Gear. Excellent. UK, fantastic. USA, nice. Switzerland. Oslo, South Africa, beautiful. Italy, nice. Sweden. Singapore, nice. Austria. Israel, Norway, Turkey, Sweden, UK. Excellent. Thank you so much for introducing each other. And please have a read at the chat box. You never know who you will find. Familiar faces probably. And this will help us to continue our discussions and collaborate post today's webinar. And that's the whole idea. This webinars was started so that we as a community come together, support each other, and learn from each other. So excellent. Keep your introductions going as the numbers of people who are joining us increasing. So as it's already up 8:03 now, I'll start the webinar formally. So it's give me immense pleasure to introduce our very first speaker, Prof. Gear. He is a deadly combination. He's an academic, a professor, as well as a politician. I got the privilege of seeing Prof. Gear many years back, and also a privilege to visit his university. He is, you will see from his sharing session today, a very kind human being, very warm at heart, and that's the reason he is working with us all the way from 2 different parts of the world. He is also a visiting professor with us at National University of Singapore. Let me just read briefly about what he has been doing. So he's a professor and leader of public health at Norwegian University of Science and Technology. We can see a few participants from NTNU University supporting him today. He has been a mayor and a member of Norwegian Parliament from 2019 to 2023. He holds an honorary guest professorship at NUS, and he has started and led several research projects, and I vouch for that. He's actually guiding many research projects back here in Singapore, especially. He's keeping the flag of salutogenesis going. So today he's here with us sharing about salutogenesis, digital learning, and artificial intelligence. And he had made a special request. He said, Shefali, make sure in my title you mention that these are my reflections. So Let's sit together, and if you can, please put our hands together to welcome Prof. Gear, please. And you can use your digital technology to give him a round of applause. Over to you, Prof. Gear, and let me know if you find any difficulty sharing your screen. Thank you, Prof. Gear.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction. It's really nice to be back. I have been in working with this group for many, many years, but now I have had 4 years that I've been just a mayor, not the university academic for 4 years. So it's really nice to be back. 5 days ago, I came back to the university and came back to my position as the leader of public health and community medicine. So as Shefali is so nicely presented me as a member of also of the NUS staff, and it's really a pleasure to be here again. What I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to present a bit more about why I am so interested in this area of e-health or m-health or whatever you call it, maybe digital health. I'm not sure. It's a mixture of concepts that's used for the same, maybe mostly the same thing. And so a bit on health promotion, because this is also one of the things I also start with. Talk about those things, and then e-health and health promotion, salutogenesis in here, e-health and salutogenesis. The next step, closing the gap, the implementation, AI in our area, examples. I've started to find some examples on how to use the open IA areas, the open IAs in our area, and but also some issues that I need to emphasize in the end, and can maybe a take-home message. So a bit more of a presentation, because I was the first leader of the anti-NUS cross-factory e-health program. So I have had some background in there, especially when it comes to the big data. How do we use the big data combinations to get more knowledge about the health in our populations? And there is where it started. And so I've always been curious, but I think that I might say that when we leave today, you probably got more questions from me than real answers. On the right-hand side, you will see me as an academic, as a parliamentary member, and also as a mayor of my small city. So this is my introduction. So just as I said, an upfront warning, my contribution will probably generate more questions than answers, but I think that's also a way to help developing an area. And as a mayor, I'm always asking myself better, more effective and locally tailored ways to give better health options and possibilities to my citizens, and how this can be done. So my mission has been to help tearing down walls in public health area, because we can see that the public health area is not working very well with the rest of the health promotion area, because that it is not working very well with the other parts of the health area. So that's been my mission, between research and practical work, also between departments and city administration management, between politicians and administrations, between researchers and politicians, and between citizen politicians and administrations, because there are always walls there that need to be torn down, and it needs to be done in a way that everybody understands why it is done. So it has to be to promote co-creation in public health work has been my most important mission, I would say, in together with all this I have addressed above. So I believe that e-health can help me to do this. And why is that? And in what ways can that be done? So we know that there is an increasing importance due to large and rapid demographical changes. Our people need to experience good health. Health systems are not sustainable at the moment. More impacts on health promotion to strengthen health in population is wanted in most parts of the world. We see it in Norway. There's an expectation that health promotion will be more emphasized in the different communities and in different municipalities. We need to build resources in individuals, families, and societies in a much different way that we have been able to do it so far. We see that emerge in Norway. We see that it's starting to be a more focus on things like that. We had just a white paper coming out from our parliament saying that we need to solve more of the problems, solve more of the health issues within the municipalities, and we also need to have more focus on public health and health promotion. heavy weight on knowledge base, and cooperation in implementation processes is also part of that. So e-health, m-health, web health, e-health, digital health, and now AI. What exactly is meant by the terms in this area? What is common about them? They are all in one or another way used at the internet as an information carrier. So e-health is defined as the application of the internet and other related technologies in the healthcare industry to improve the access, the efficiency, the effectiveness, the quality of treatment, and the business process where that is applicable, utilized by healthcare organizations, practitioners, patients, and consumers. So it's a really wide definition, the e-health definition. So it can be used as a way to understand why and how we can use e-health as part of the new development in the health area, and especially, I would say, in the development of the areas we are working in. It could simply also be everything that has to do with health or medicine and electronic equipment working together. That might be the most easier way to see it. The e-health promotion, the use of internet for health promotion, there is a few papers published. And I would say the first paper I found was the Ivers paper from 2006, that e-health promotion is the use of the internet for health promotion, the use of the internet for health promotion, including growth trends, general applicability, and evaluation strategies for online interventions. Later, which is quite new one, digital health is to manage illnesses and health risks and to promote wellness. Digital health has a broad scope and includes the use of wearable devices, for example, mobile phones. So mobile health, telehealth, health information technology, and telemedicine. So there is a constant flux of definitions coming, and we see that they are more and more precise as we go by. Again, back to salutogenesis, because salutogenesis is the reason why we are here. Salut, as you remember, for Greek, Latin for health, and Genesis, Greek for origin. So this is the theoretical concept that we are talking about today. And we have seen that there have come a lot out on salutogenesis the last years. This handbook of salutogenesis came 2022, and we see the editors at the bottom here, which has been the most important when it comes to promote health, to promote salutogenesis for the last years. In Norway, we have published this way to look at how we can use a practical work model for public health in both as an e-health model, but also as a model for all kinds of salutogenesis thinking. And we see that really important in this model is that we know that there are coming white papers from the government and the social responsibility papers. We are establishing knowledge via knowledge base. We are involved and we develop, we plan for action, we implement, we evaluate, and we form new actions or we form new knowledge that's coming back to the parliament. This one is published in 2018 and is now used as a working model in public health and in health promotion around the world, and especially been popular in Scandinavia. So we must always, as we work, we must always remember the process of that health promotion is the process of enabling people to increase control over their health and its determinants, and thereby improve their health. We need to look back into this definition. The more knowledge we have, the more we know about the area. We need to know to return to the definition and look back at it to always remember. So what is the salutogenesis? Is that a unique, what kind of approach can salutogenesis offer to e-health? Well, from Universitat Oberta de Catalunya in Catalonia, we see that they have defined the ways that salutogenesis can help e-health is to believe that we need to bring this approach, salutogenesis, into e-health to put people at the center and let them work on keeping healthy themselves. So control their health, taken into this definition, or taken into how the Catalonia University see that we can use e-health. So to gain control. The salutogenic concept is a counterpoint to the pathogenic, as we know that. And salutogenesis focuses on how we keep ourselves fit and well. The UC's Faculty of Health Sciences was designated as a World Health Organization collaborating center in the digital field at the health in April 2018. So then we have a faculty that is working with that in the based in the WHO. So Dr. Manuel Armayones, he says that if people can access their health data, they can make informed decisions about their health. Therefore, it's more important than any place for health promotion to use e-health, because it can give people a more insight into their health, give them more data, give them more informed information, and therefore they can form informed decisions about their health. E-health is also very pertinent or very important when it comes to teach health promotion in communication and dissemination processes. We can make world-class education at our doorstep, as maybe the webinars for the STARS group is an example on. In all countries around the world, you can be able to take part. It is tailored to the situation, group, population, society, and we are shaping society with others. So there is a lot of ways that we can use e-health, or we can use the internet to shape e-health. We can see how e-health and health literacy can be used. E-health may be an important vehicle to achieve health literacy. More and more people and health organizations use e-health services and products. We can also need to understand, also need to understand how a person's level of health literacy influences the interaction. We also, and how health professionals and communication specialists can provide support, but also to design e-health literacy communication that is tailored to the situation and to the population we are talking about. So I would say that one of the things that's really important in this area, as in other areas now, is that we get implementation science working. We have been working in theoretical research, in intervention research, in translational research, and in implementation research. But to get this work, we need, in practice, we need to have more implementation research that tells us which parts of what we are doing is working and why is it working, and if it's not working, why is it not working. So more impact on implementation research. And e-health gives us the opportunity and the possibility to be more focused on, to get more information on the implementation processes in quite simple ways. So what health organization says about the possibilities giving it to implementation research is that implementation evidence-based practice is one of the great challenges facing the global health community, and has identified the importance of implementation science is scaling up with evidence-based interventions. This is a really arena for e-health and for using the internet for e-health communication, for e-health data collection, for shaping new e-health programs. So just a few years ago, we became aware of the ChatGTP. The ChatGTP is an AI way of kind of constructing things. We can, it's really a language, a place where you can get things that has to do with the language you're using, but also that can gather a lot of information in a very short time. And that can also be a part of what we are doing when we are planning for programs in, for example, in health promotion or in salutogenic programs. So I've used that a lot in the last, and I asked, but I didn't really know what the ChatGTP meant about itself. So we asked the ChatGTP, what can you tell me about ChatGTP in 4 points? Because then you can see how the IA is thinking about its own kind of capabilities. So the ChatGTP says that there are 4 concise points about ChatGTP. That is that ChatGTP is an AI language model developed by OpenAI. It is designed for natural language understanding and text generation in a conversational context. ChatGPT can be used in applications like chatbots, virtual assistants, and content generation. It is trained on a diverse data set, enabling to provide human-like responses to a wide range of textual inputs. So then I asked the ChatGPT about, can you give me the important characteristics of salutogenesis in 3 short points? If you did, for example, use Google, it will come up with different places you can find things about salutogenesis. If you ask the ChatGPT, it will try to give you a short description of what you would say about salutogenesis. It says that it's of course developed by Arnon Antonovsky. The most important characteristics can be summarized in 3 key points: sense of coherence, focus on resources, positive orientation. And so between those, it also tells about what is meant by the different concepts. Then I asked the ChatGPT, what are the 3 most important impact on population health from salutogenesis? And then the chat says that the promotion of health and well-being, reduction of health inequalities, enhanced psychological well-being. Those are the 3 most important impacts population health can have from salutogenesis. It also gives us a little more on each of them. And then I was a bit intrigued to find out more, asking people how I could use ChatGPT in, for example, constructing research or research designs. And then I got the answer that ChatGPT is really made to give you the most convincing answer with the most correct language. That this does not mean with the most possibly correct content, because that's also important, that if you use ChatGPT, you will need to be the evaluator or the censor of what comes out. So one must also consider ethics and confidentiality, because the ChatGPT puts things together in new ways, which might not be very good seen from an ethics or from a confidentiality view. ChatGPT is made with confirmation bias, made to please you. You get the answers, often the answers as you want them, not the answers you need, but the answers you want to have. And especially if you go on asking ChatGPT, you will get that answers, which gives skewness in honesty and can be manipulating to you, because you think that your questions are answered in a way that you can use immediately, but the ChatGPT wants to please you. So I tried via ChatGPT to create a research trial in salutogenesis, which focuses on factors that promote health and well-being rather than solely on the cause of disease. And the ChatGPT gave me an outline on a hypothetical research trial in the field of salutogenesis. So I don't say that. Well, actually, it is a doable research trial. It's not the best research trial, but as a way to generate new ideas, I found that the ChatGPT or this artificial intelligence, open artificial intelligence, can actually give us something, can give us some advice, can give us some ideas to work on. And you see here that it comes up with both objective hypotheses and participants, the numbers we would need to get this done. And it also randomizes it. It gives us some advice on how the intervention should be and should be carried through, how the data collection should be carried through. It gives us outcome measures that we could be interested in, and it gives us some ideas on what kind of statistical analysis that could be used. But the fun thing is that it also gives us some ethical considerations. So the trial will be conducted in compliance with ethical guidelines and approved by an international review board. I mean, that's the most problematic with artificial intelligence at the moment is that it can't really see what is the most sensible things and what is lies and what is on the internet that is just rubbish. It takes all together and smashes it together and give you the answer that it comes up with when it has smashed it together. And also, please note that the details provided are simplified example, and conducting a research trial involves careful planning. Ethical ChatGPT also gives me that as an answer. So the news of the day, people, that is prompt engineering. And prompt engineering is a way to learn people that is using artificial intelligence to be precise in the ways that you're using artificial intelligence. It prompts the work by laying on the basic prompting methods. We need to know what are the basic prompting methods. We need to explore some advanced prompting approaches and AI tools that allow us to tweak and transform images. We also need to provide effective prompting tips for the ChatGPT and go over OpenAI API usage guidelines and prompt. So prompt engineering is the new way to help us people that know little on ChatGPT and on artificial intelligence before, to start using artificial intelligence as maybe as guidelines for how to do, for example, the research design. It can serve as a helping hand. If, for example, in fast finding and combining different IP interventions, finding best solutions. Artificial intelligence is just though an advanced set of algorithms, as you know, with all this kind of data collections on the internet. If the algorithms are badly constructed and if what is out there is garbage, your result will be garbage also, as it used to be in all kind of things, the browsers, for example, that's on the internet as well. We will need a human brain still to evaluate its possibilities to accomplish what we need in a setting of humans, where still human contact and sharing of common understandings and emotions is what we need in the health area, common understandings and emotions. So their artificial intelligence at the moment is not precise enough to give us very much help there. But as I said, there are a number of issues that we need to emphasize. The ethical, to be sure that we handle the build up in an ethical, safe way and not become intruders. We need to know, the need to know, not the fun to know. To be strongly connected to the idea of salutogenesis, for the citizens to gain control over their own health, to build strength in people, information and communication safety. So the use of e-health is not about the technology, it's about how we use this e-health possibilities, co-creationally, ethically, and how we tailor it. A significant upside is it allows high level of confidentiality if we have the trustworthy programs. A possible downside is not end up as a public health stereotypic Dr. Google or salutogenesis. You remember the question where you get 1 million answers. So the take-home message will be, which makes our endeavor important. Society is changing, demographics are changing. There is no way that all the health challenges can be met only with more disease prevention, more treatment, or more rehabilitation. So our view on health and our medical paradigm is shifting and includes the knowledge of finding and building resources and strengths of individuals, families, and societies. And in that area, we can also use e-health as one of the things we can use. So thank you. That was my presentation.
Thank you very much, Prof. Geir, for a very intriguing presentation. I'm sure, like me, many of our colleagues here who are joining us from different parts of the world have enjoyed your presentation, and I'm sure people have questions. So is this okay, Prof? We can take some questions now?
Yes, sure.
All right. Excellent. So the floor is open for questions. Either you can put your question in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question. while I think people are warming up on your presentation, maybe I start with a question, because I think you have shared a very important point on ethical consideration. When especially with the chat GPT, with the digitalization, especially after COVID-19. I'm going to share a little bit of my personal story, and then Prof. Gia, I want to see your reflection and insights. So I remember when I started my academic journey, we wanted to introduce, because Singapore, like some parts of the world, we are aging very fast. And we are reaching or going into we call it gray tsunami. And it has been forecasted that by 2030, out of 5 people, we will have only 1 young adult, and 4 will be the people with age 60 years old and above. So it's becoming very important for us to take a salutogenic model rather than manage the conditions, because it's taking a toll on our healthcare economy. And I remember when I started my academic journey, we were talking about, how we can engage our older adults with the digital devices and digital interventions. And one of the common opposition was, no, they are not digital literate, because the question was that, they have been always living in a certain way, so and so forth. But personally, I have seen how during COVID-19 birthday celebrations, Chinese New Year celebrations, because our majority of our ethnic group is Chinese, how it become digitalized everything. So I want to hear from you, based on your experiences and all that, a little bit on your reflections on how digital literacy can be introduced, especially for different age groups.
Well, I have a personal experience with that, because I have a 91-year-old father, and at the beginning, when we started we came into the COVID-19, we found that we needed to start to use digital platforms, all of us. And my father, who has never used a computer, he started to find out that he is now able to go in and check his own health tests, for example, everything that's done. In the beginning, he didn't know anything. So I think that it has to do with finding ways to introduce it, and introduce digital tools to all people. And of course, as the time goes by, there will be fewer and fewer that has not been introduced to digital platforms as well. But at the moment, it seems like in Norway, it seems like people are really very happy to use digital tools when we are talking about health. I think health is probably the one issue that is the most important for people to understand how they can use digital health equipment, digital arenas. So I think we are better off than many other places in the communities, but because health is a trigger for most things, also for getting to use digital tools. I got a question here from Ghana. My name is My question is how this can be implemented in a developing country like Ghana. It depends a little on what part you're talking about. I think that if it is you use ChatGPT, you can find ChatGPT on your mobile and use ChatGPT as at least a way to understand. As a way to understand or getting guidelines and to collect very fast data that could be used in your implementations, for example.
Prof. Gia, thanks for answering my question, and also helping to answer Saliso's question, who is from Ghana. And I think we also, I'm sure it's a community, and if anybody else want to add on to what Prof. Gia's answer is, just put your hands up so that we can have interactive discussions rather than a Q&A. And Prof. Gia, so we don't miss the question, and I'm very grateful for Valerie for starting the Q&A, because she has written a question. I'm going to just read it, and we'll need your insights on that. Using ChatGPT seems like taking the easy way out of work we have to do. What do you think, or what do you have to say about this, especially when there's this sorry, I can't read, when there's of societies which do not have as much access to AI, very similar to, I think, Ghana's case here. Will this create further disparities? Excellent question. Prof. Gear or anyone who would like to talk about this.
Can I make a comment?
Yep, excuse me.
Can I make a comment, please?
Please.
Yep. I from my experience, mobile phones are very much in use everywhere in the world, and in mobile phones there is especially smartphones, there is a built-in way to be able to communicate with the internet, and as long as you have communications with internet, you will be possible for you to enhance it. But I would say that the most important thing is for people that is planning interventions or is planning to do research, they will most times have the possibility to use that as a way to get information very fast about what's on the net. And so, of course, it could be really it could be so bad that we got Trump's answers on how to treat COVID-19 as a balanced way of looking at that things. And that's the problem with chat. That's the problem with artificial intelligence at the moment, that it's not able to balance what is the important news and what is the not so important news.
Yeah, thanks, Prof. Gear. And I just want audience attention to Shimon's question, or rather a comment in the comment box. Excellent, Shimon. That's the spirit we want. She's developing a project, and is welcoming collaboration. So there's a link. Feel free to speak with Shimon to get things going. Jake has a question, Prof. Gear, and specifically, I would like to ask a question. The paradox of digital interactions. Although digital platforms give us opportunities to speak to more people more regularly, they paradoxically also seem to making us more lonely, more isolated. I would also like to hear Prof. Gear's thoughts from this in a health promotion context. Is it possible to authentically deliver the human values of health promotion, justice, equity, connection, belonging, mutuality in a world where digital tools encourage decreasing humanness? Wow. What a profound question. Over to you, Prof.
I don't know. As I said, I think I would be able to raise more questions than I would be able to answer. And that seems very correct. No, but I think that digital platforms can never be the sole solution to anything. It can be a help. It can be a tool that helps us to deliver information, helps us to deliver results and stuff and things like that. But happily, we are always needed, and as people, we are always needed there as to be the people that are using this digital stuff. And the other thing is, of course, that the digital stuff doesn't get more dehumanized than the people that is creating it. So I would say that as long as it is used as a helper, it shouldn't be any problem. But I see the problem if it is the only way that we communicate with people, if it is the only way that we try to set up trials and try to set up interventions. Of course, then it would be negative for our way to be both warm with and to take care of. So it can't be that, but it is surely a way to get help for a lot of the stuff that Shefley mentioned, that we are going to be very fewer persons that needs to deliver more to older persons, for example. We can't have the hands we need. If we use all the hands in the health system, we don't have any taxi drivers or shopkeepers, so we need to balance this. But there is always the need for warm hands and warm minds.
Yeah, and I'm keeping tab on the time, and we have about 10 more minutes for the Q&A. And I also want to assure that if some of the questions are missed out, because we are recording it, we will have a copy of these questions. I will ensure that if we can work with Prof. Gear or speakers to get back to you with our responses. And I'm going to quickly jump in. I'm trying to resist myself not to answer, because I want to hear from the experts like Prof. Gear, and Louis is also in line to talk about his experience. But I just want to comment on what Prof. Gear has just mentioned on Jake's question that, digital can be both a bane or a boon. But I think I feel the moderated way is one way to go. I have developed many digital interventions for varied group of participants, and I have seen that coming as a healthcare professional as a moderator in those interventions, it also plays a very important part, because sometimes it do cause isolation when we put up I would say some of the experiences which are not really authentic, and we are only sharing one side of the story. I'm happy to share some experiences if we have time at the end of the day, but fully agree it has to be a moderated as well as a balanced view. So before we got question from Bhavna, thank you for raising your hand. I saw Bongin Kosi. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your wrongly. You unmuted yourself and you wanted to say something. Over to you.
Yes, thank you. You've pronounced it very well. And what it means is thank the Lord.
Over to you.
Thank you for the insightful presentation. And I just wanted to comment, especially when you touch the ChatGPT usage in any study for that matter. It is an assisting tool, but it can never take away the human mind. And in fact, most students want to use it in a wrong way, but it will always be you feeding it. And be careful, you touch something on the skewness, the manipulative nature of it, that people must be careful about that. Otherwise, whatever research you're doing through chatbot, you don't end the end results of it if you're not careful of the manipulation. And I'm grateful that you've touched on that to say people need to be aware of that in any research for that matter. I'm just adding that in that. And thanks so much for this presentation. I think it's quite insightful for me. Thank you.
Can I comment on that? Yeah, because
yes,
because that's important. That's really important that we don't. It's not an endpoint. ChatGPT can be just used to generate ideas, and because it's the human mind that has to clarify whether it is interesting ideas that comes out. We see that now there is a great fear in the school system for ChatGPT use. Of course, that's all over the world. That the teachers think that the students can end up with using just ChatGPT and get the answers from that programs. So that's probably worse. The worse end of it, and especially when it's used for if it's used without thoughtfulness. As a guideline for things to do. I think it is really important that we are able to control the use of it, and also that we are able to understand that it's only a tool. It's not the answer to anything. It's just a tool.
Thank you, Prof. Bhavna, over to you.
Thank you so much. I would first of all like to thank that this presentation was very interesting and comprehensive. And I request that I may be excused for not switching on my video because I'm on low bandwidth. However, a few observations and some of my own concerns that I would like to share. First of all, salutogenesis, as was rightly pointed out in the presentation, when we talk of salutogenesis, we talk of the presence of health, the factors that promote health, right? And when we talk of the same aspects in the negative, we are going towards pathogenesis, right? Now here, when we are talking of digitalization, first of all, my concern, as a lot of other participants have raised, is that artificial intelligence may only go to a certain extent and not beyond, but the possibilities of the human mind and the human experience as far as seeking health and well-being is concerned, it is immense. Right, so the experiences of all those populations who do not have access even to technology. Leave aside the digital tools that we are talking about. The experiences of indigenous communities in terms of keeping their health and well-being, living in tandem with nature, that is what will feed more into our understanding of salutogenesis, because my understanding of what I have researched and learned over the years shows me that if what we are doing is going in tandem with, in accordance with the laws of nature, then it is moving towards salutogenesis. So first of all, artificial intelligence is artificial, and what the point that I am making about the laws of nature is natural. So there seems to be a certain dichotomy there, natural versus artificial. This is one thing that I wanted to raise. The other, of course, is even when we are talking of digitalization, there are so many other things. What we are doing right now, this Zoom meeting, the interaction across the world through this Zoom meeting. This is a wonderful example of digitalization, which I believe goes much beyond what ChatGPT would throw up as an answer to a few questions that we would give it. So this sharing of ideas, this interaction that we are having right now, and this can be made much more richer in terms of adding more and more people. I'm sure there are experts from the field of salutogenesis, but having people, researchers, fresh graduates working in this field who come up brimming with ideas, that would also enrich our understanding. So I would like the views of the speaker and the moderator on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bhavna, for sharing your insights. Prof. Gia, would you like to share something?
I think it is important what is said here. The human mind is not, there is nothing bigger and more precise than the human mind, but there is but still gathering information in the way that the candidate by artificial intelligence can help us, guide us, give us ideas that we would have missed if we didn't use that kind of but it can never be instead of the human mind. It just have to be there as a tool for us. And what I showed was examples on what would become in 2 seconds time if you use the ChatGPT. I mean, how could you manage to collect that kind of information in that short time span if you didn't use that? So it is more like small helpings, it's small rails that we can hold on to in a start process of doing things, but you can never get in the way of what we're doing now, exchanging ideas and of the thinking that a human being can do. But of course, and that's important to be said. It is, even if artificial intelligence is a bit we almost we wouldn't like it to happen, but it have happened. People are constructing algorithms that are taking things out of the internet and giving us back, and then we need to learn to use it. So the earlier we start to use it as a guideline, as a way to help ourselves in doing the work, the better it is, the better we are able to understand how it can be used. So that was my idea here. But the most important thing with what we're doing now is not talking about ChatGPT, it's talking about salutogenesis, it's talking about how we can develop salutogenic ideas. ChatGPT is just a big, tiny, small piece.
Thank you, Prof. Gill. And Bhavna, since you have asked me to comment as well, I'm going to just add on with an example, and hopefully will make things a bit more clearer and again, open for discussions. So I'm going to just summarize in one sentence what Prof. Gill has said, that what we are introducing, AI, virtual reality, or ChatGPT, which is large, language models, these are just an adjunct. These are just an additional support to what we want to do for health promotion. And I'm going to give you an example here. I teach medical and nursing students, and So we use, I'm sure those from healthcare industry, when we train students, we use standardized patients. They are actor patients, and we train them on communication skills, on certain healthcare, skills and all that stuff before they actually go into the clinical settings. It's slightly beyond the simulations which we do on a mannequin. These are real human beings, standardized patients, but they are expensive, and also not every student can have a one-on-one access to the standardized patients. They normally work in groups. So what I did a few years back, I used AI and I developed virtual patients based on authentic case scenarios, depending upon the particular semester these students are, medical or nursing students, for them to have this communication or skills on a virtual patient. We use AI, we use large learning models way before when ChatGPT came in. I wish it was there. It would have made my life very easy. It was very expensive. It was very difficult to develop those virtual patients. But what we realized after those virtual patients were that gives students a small space, especially those students who are introverts, those students who couldn't just get an experience with the standardized patients, to practice those skills at the comfort of their home, anywhere, anytime. So again, we have not replaced standardized patients. They are equally very important, but we added a layer for those students who were shy, who were introverts, and also for those who didn't get the chance to actually speak with a standardized patient, so that they feel safe before they actually go to the clinical practice. So that's how AI, that's how virtual reality, digitalization, they're coming in aid as an adjunct. So that's what I wanted to say, Bhavna, and I hope that had answered your question. I'm looking at the time now. It's time for us to take a short break, and I know Louis is waiting, and there are many questions still, and we have an activity time. I'll see if we can answer those questions. More than activity, it is a discussion, I think, which is more important, but I'm very sure that Louis' presentation will cover some of these questions. So with your permission, now it's looking at my time, it's 8:52. So we're going to have about 8 minutes of a break. It's a refreshment break, a toilet break, restroom, whatever works for you. So we'll be back sharp at 2 p.m. Is that okay with everybody?
Concept of salutogenesis and what sense of coherence means, which is the ability of individuals to cope with stressors in life and stay healthy. If we apply this to the digital life world, we could say that, yes, the sense of coherence, digital sense of coherence, the ability of individuals to cope with stressors that are common in the digital world, and how do they stay healthy there? So as you can see, Salutogenesis is a positive resource for health, has a lot of promise in the development and implementation of digital health interventions, many of which center on self-care. But the main issue here is that Salutogenesis is not necessarily behind the building of the digital world life. Therefore, we would consider that digital life could become a generalized resistance resource, where specific interventions can be harnessed as specific resistance resources that can be harnessed to improve population well-being and survival. Well, some examples have been made here very, very clearly during the last pandemic situation. Now, don't be afraid of this picture. I understand fully that it's very small to look at it. You find that in the book, in the second edition of the book that I referred in the beginning. But just to make it clear where we are starting, the digital life world is the social, cultural, and historical context where child rearing patterns are defined and established. New child rearing patterns, where social roles are established, where idiosyncratic factors merge, and where chance, I would say also chaos, can be a component of this consistent digital world that where we are living today. So we could see that there are major psychosocial generalized resistance resources and major genetic and constitutional generalized resistance resources. So the digital life world would become a generalized resistance resource if it is used properly and in order to increment the capacity of people to manage their lives and progress towards the health end of the continuum. So the digital life world, the center, that I would say the center of the world today, where everything happens, it's a place where, first of all, you start to pre-contemplate action, or if you want, you start to pre-contemplate your behavior in terms of the digital new component of your life. Then you move to the contemplation and determination of living, being part of this digital life world. Now, for this to emerge, the three levels of comprehensibility, manageability, and meaningfulness are necessary to transform the chaotic digital life world into an organized, into something where you come from information interpretation to information processing. And these steps going through information interpretation, information conversion, and then information processing helps the person to move from sense making with the capacity that comprehensibility gives to that person to knowledge creation, where you are transforming that information into a manageable, possible action into your life, and finally to the decision-making process. So the digital life world is the center of the action, if you want, and then we can find there generalized resistant deficits, generalized resistant resources, and these life experiences help the person to move from the this is and to the is and if action is meaningful, if action is manageable, and if what leads to action is comprehensible. So the search for the answer of the salutogenic question, what explains movement toward the health end of the health illness continuum in the digital life world, leads us to study the digital life world as a life world where resistant resources, and of course, the sense of curiosity in particular, they may shaped, activated, or degraded. So the sense of coherence and its constituent is not a coping strategies, as all we know. It is a broad orientation to life, and the broad orientation to live in the digital life world. So the salutogenic hypothesis is that the stronger the sense of coherence, the greater the likelihood of moving towards the health end of the continuum in the digital life world. Now, I would like to come to the end of this short presentation just by sharing with you 2 or 3 details of the experiments that we made in the digital life world in terms of smoking cessation. So, you know, smoking cessation is an issue, a public health issue, and there are many stakeholders involved in smoking cessation. So, okay, you have comprehensibility, manageability, and meaningfulness in the process. Imagine that the person wants to stop smoking. Of course, in many countries, and I would put some of the countries of Europe and around the world, you can just check your own country, there are not enough services to help people to stop smoking. Now, what you have here is a research that was done by in America by the American Cancer Society, asking citizens what was the best platform to help them stop smoking with the use of the internet. So in the digital life world, what was the best solution for them to stop smoking? So number 1 is PM Quit Assist. Number 2, referred by the participants, was quitnet.com. And number 3 was FG Railings. Now, when you look at these platforms to help you to stop smoking, So remember, comprehensibility, manageability, and meaningfulness that would help you to use the resources in the digital life world in order to make your progression towards the health end. When you look at these three platforms, you will find that the number one, PM Quit Assist, it's a platform to help you to stop smoking, and it has been built by Philip Morris, the big tobacco corporation. So the first question that you would ask yourself is, how is it possible that Philip Morris, whose main business is to sell tobacco, puts out a platform to help you stop smoking? So PM Quit Assist, number one, referred by the participants. Number two, quitnet.com is referred in this research, and this platform is developed and offered by the American Cancer Society. Okay, there is some convergence, some coherence between the American Cancer Society offering the resource in the digital life world to help people to stop smoking. And the number three that shows up in this research is R.G. Reynolds. Now, R.G. Reynolds, it's another big tobacco company. They are on Camel, for instance. And they are also putting there out in the digital life world a platform to help people to stop smoking. I think this is more than enough to give you an example how critical it is to live in the digital life world without a strong sense of coherence. So the important determinants of the sense of coherence are to be found in the nature of the society in which one lives, in the given historical period, and the particular social role complexes in which one is embedded. This is Aaron Antonovsky's words in 1990. So we could say that with the advent of the digital life world, a new historical period is upon us, carrying new, complex social roles that no one can escape today. We just had the example of Gear's father. You know, even if you would like to escape it, it's very hard today to do it. No matter how old you are, no matter who you are, it's unstoppable. The invasion of the digital life world into everyone's lives. So currently, a life disconnected from the digital life world is almost impossible. But if that were to happen in the life of a person that is become excluded from the digital life world, then we could face a digital life world becoming a generalized resistant resource deficit. So therefore, the digital life world is among the many roads to a stronger soul, or not. It depends how, first of all, the digital life world is built, your experiences with the digital life world, and your vision of the world itself. Here, just an example, you'll find it also in the chapter that I referred. It's the algorithms that were developed of our platform to help stop smoking. And by doing this, a sense of coherence was the backbone of the intervention that was developed. I would like to finalize with this very, very interesting perspective that Antonovsky gave us when he said, you visualize a river. And then when we visualize a river with its bends, and this river became very turbulent, we find that people desperately struggle to keep their heads above the water. I would say that many of us, this is what we feel, this is what we live in the digital life world. We are really trying to keep our heads above the water. Just imagine how many emails you have received just during the last 2 hours you were here. Just imagine what you are going to do after you come back from holidays. Anyway, using a great variety of weapons, the disease care professionals with great devotion, skill, and arduous effort seek to save those in danger of drowning. I would say that there are a lot that in danger of drowning in the digital life world. So we pay almost no attention to and invest few resources in. This school cogently points out what goes on upstream. We do not ask who or what is pushing these people into the river. So these are Antonovsky's own words. So he continues to say, I can now come to my major thesis, which points to the fundamental inadequacy of the pathogenic paradigm, its accuracy. This is its assumption of homeostasis as the normal state of affairs. It's believed that unless some special combination of circumstances occur, people do not contract a disease. They stay what is called healthy, remaining safely on the banks of the river. I would say that if we don't take special care of our wanderings in the digital lifeplace, we might come very, very quickly to a state of immense, really failure to live a healthy life in this digital life there. And so you have the equation of entropy that pops up. It's very interesting, this discussion around the equation of entropy, the concept that Aaron Antonovsky introduces to us. Entropy, or if you want, the measure of chaos, it's equal to the inverse of information. Okay, so what are we doing in the digital life? We are fighting entropy. That's why we entered the digital life. We thought that by incrementing our presence in the digital life world, we will decrease entropy in our lives. And what is going on in the digital life world? An increment that is not anybody is able to cope. An increment of information. This increment of information became a major struggle in the digital life world today. How are we going to cope with this? I would say that we really need to look at the proposal of Antonovsky that if we don't learn how to live in heterostasis, in balance, in the digital life world, we might be the next candidates to be excluded by that from it. So the human organism is a system, and as all systems subject to the force of entropy. That's the fight. That's why we created the digital life world. That's also the fight to survive the digital life world. How do we deal with the forces of entropy inside of that world? I would stay here and wait for your questions, because a lot is there to be explored, explained, and we are just in the beginning of this major revolution, of this new setting where health promotion needs to find new ways to influence that, that progression towards the health end that Antonovsky proposes us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Luis. Wow. I was enjoying so much. I totally forgot about the time. Thank you very much for your insights. And I feel you have answered many questions which were unanswered in the chat. And I will, with your permission, open the floor for question and answer. Is that okay, Luis?
Of course.
Excellent. So any questions from the floor? And I think as the audience is warming up, there's one question which I feel is very linked to what you have presented, Luis, and it was asked earlier after Prof. Gay's presentation. I'm going to read that, Luis, and your insights. How do we deal with the negative impact when there is no alternative to AI chat, I would say digitalization, to move forward in many e-health services? Maybe humans get frustrated and choose not to use digital media or AI as people don't have a first-line choice. Is a parallel non-AI system during the long development process an underestimated aspect and therefore forcing us to use today's AI chats or digital technology? So what's your take on that, Luis?
Well,
again, personal reflection. I know there's no right or wrong, right? We are discussing on.
Yeah. I think we are at the edge of civilization shift. We all know that, and we are not prepared to deal with that hedge. We are standing there looking to the unknown and asking ourselves and asking others, let's stop this. You see, Musk asked, let's stop for a while the development of artificial intelligence because we need to think where we are going. Elon Musk asked it, and many others, thinkers and stakeholders of the EA revolution. We don't know where we are going. We think that we know, but we don't know. And the problem here is that we are increasing a huge demand on information management, and no human can compete with algorithms made by all these companies that are gathering information at a speed that never any human society ever had to deal with. So the problem here, and I think that we have a lot to discover and to progress in Antonovsky's theory, because there is a chapter in his theory that deals with entropy and chaos. And we have not been dealing that much with all these insights that Aaron Antonovsky left us. And I have been working on that for some years now, particularly, of course, I think that when we consider this type of things, we should always link them to very concrete issues, just come down to the earth and deal with the issues that human beings, real human beings, have to deal with on everyday basis. And working on smoking cessation has been one of these aspects. Is that if we downgrade the complexity of what is behind this revolution and we try to follow with this tracer methodology just one aspect of the whole thing, you will get immediately connected to the issue of the lack of capacity of human beings to deal with the increments of information processing by algorithms. The problem then is, if in that algorithm there is a very, very small error, can you imagine the huge consequences that will come out of that algorithm in some minutes? And the very big question that we are asking today is, who is going to control the algorithms? And the harsh consequences of wrong proceedings and procedures inside of those algorithms. Because once those algorithms have been put there, we will trust them more than we are trusting our lives into many, many stakeholders in society. So there is this gap of control. And remember one thing. Let's see, there is a question from Greg. Greg, just give me 1 second. Remember one thing. Now, health promotion is about control. The digital life world is about loss of control. When we take the glasses of health promotion and we immerse ourselves into the digital life world, we will have, an augmented reality. And this augmented reality, it's far away from our senses to dominate. Are we going to deal with it to stop? Because otherwise we will stay here for the rest of the afternoon discussing this. I'm passionate about this and of course searching for answers. Please, Greg.
Thank you.
Hi. I guess I'm just a little confused. I mean, I tuned into Salutogenesis and I got to Salutogenesis because it was about creating solutions to create health. Yet when all I hear is about smoking cessation. Even if we stop smoking, it doesn't mean we've created health. Also means we haven't smoked. Talk about the problems associated with ChatGPT. Where are the solutions about things that would crowd out bad choices? So we start doing, ChatGPT has a tremendous opportunity to nudge people, the nudge technology, creating choice architecture, building designs so that people are more likely to default into healthy behaviors on a regular basis that would, in essence, make it more difficult to engage in problematic behaviors. That to me is what salutogenesis is. How do we proactively create health? Not how do we react to these problems? And that's all I'm hearing. Am I missing something? I'm just. We need to be thinking. Bahava had a wonderful. Nature has done this tremendously. They build more complexity into making life better, more complex, and also less problems by using nature. And we're just animals, so we can do the same thing. I'm rapping. I'm just yapping now. So how can we start using ChatGPT or AI to nudge and build society that makes health behaviors the default?
Great. I think that's $1 million question, and how I would be so happy to have an answer. I don't have.
That's what I plugged in for today. I want to hear it.
But I give you an example. That's so I was saying. Let me give you an example that might help us to understand this. If you ask ChatGPT, what is the best way to stop smoking?
That's not a salutogenic question. That's a pathogenic question. Stopping smoking is not bad, but how do we create more good?
Yeah, but for many people, in many societies, that is moving a process moving towards the health end. Of course, we can take this out and consider other aspects of health promotion strategy, healthy environments. How do we ask ChatGPT to help us to create healthy environments? And from there, move on into the knowledge that has been created around the concept of healthy environments. I have not done that myself, that experiment. As I said, I have to focus myself on a tracer approach because the issue is so complex that I have rather prefer to focus on something very, 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 very related to the burden of some of the citizens around me. And that's why, of course, as you say, it's a pathogenic issue. Yes, you are dealing with a pathogenic issue in order to progress towards a health end. Okay. Now, of course, there is many other perspectives that could be activated here. I'm just sharing my own perspective and my investment in order to use salutogenesis to create an approach to help people to move towards the health end by learning, by creating meaningfulness in what it means to live healthier lives. And stop smoking is just one of them. Okay, so, but of course, I believe that a lot can be explored from this new instrument. I'm not an expert in ChatGPT, and I have to say that until now, I have used it once or twice just to check out what it's giving me in terms of health promotion. And I was surprised, I have to say, because I would say that it was almost about to convince me that he had something special to tell me. But in the end, and when you are working very much in a very specific field, you start to have a knowledge that goes behind the addition of several aspects or perspectives. And what ChatGPT is giving you is the addition of several aspects and perspectives that are created from a very simple algorithm that is, I like it, I don't like it, yes or no. And from here, it starts to build up what we call the artificial intelligence. Now, when you put I like it in something, it doesn't mean that what you say, I like, it's good. Good for you, good for others, and it's meaningful for a health promotion strategy. So very easily, you can create a total wrong perspective based on I like it. So how do you manage this? Of course, when you are creating the algorithm, then you have to take into consideration this. The question is how many health professionals or health promoters are actively engaged in creating the algorithm ChatGPT? How many? I don't know any of my colleagues in health promotion actively engaged in the creation, in the building up of the algorithms that are behind these artificial intelligence. So we have engineers, they are very competent. Of course they are. The question is, where are the experts in health promotion in the building up of those algorithms?
I would think that somehow I think about it differently. ChatGPT is a baseline. It gives us something then to test. You may say, what's a healthy environment? How do we build it? Then we find out, does that lead to the behaviors that we want or not? It's not an endpoint. It's a starting point from which to build and grow, because it's pulling together all the knowledge that exists everywhere. And we already know. It's not anything new. It's pulling what we know and pulling it together in a way that we could never pull it together at the same time. So I think it can create a starting point from which we test and try. And if it doesn't, we adjust, and that would then move ChatGPT forward because it would be new knowledge.
I agree with you. It's a starting
Thank
point.
you. Thank you, Craig, and thank you, Luis. I'm mindful of the time. And Craig, I have found you. So you're going to help me with the activity, because this was one of the questions I have in the activity, which we're supposed to do a collective decision-making or discussion on how, and I also feel what, Craig, you have. I can feel your passion, Craig, and excellent questions you are asking. And again, we are here to learn from each other. We don't have answers to every question, and that's why the discussions are very important. But I also see that today's presentation, I think instead of digitalization and salutogenesis, should be ChatGPT and salutogenesis. Somehow ChatGPT is taking us like a storm. So before we go into an activity, it's already my 9:34. We are about 25 minutes into to end this webinar. There's a question from Wendy, and I have some private messages. I will try to answer them shortly. So yes, Wendy, over to you.
Thank you. I'm really new to Salutogenesis. I've spent about the last 3 or 4 months reading the 2 books that Antonovsky wrote, and I'm familiar with the theory model that we looked at. And the thing that I think moves forward in whichever environment this is moving it from when I read the model, it looks at it from maybe it's my perspective, but I've looked at it from an individual perspective of how does the individual sense of coherence, how does the individual become move on the pole towards ease rather than dis-ease, and what makes the difference, I think, is what made the difference for me in understanding that model was when I realized that I was also a general resource for the community that I'm in and for the group of people that I relate to. And I think that's relevant in the actual world and in a digital world, is that when rather than salutogenesis just being a model that we say, how can we help other people to swim better, we're also then saying to those people, by swimming better or by the way that you're swimming currently, you're also within other people and you are a resource for those people. So sorry if that's a really naive comment to make, but I'm thinking that interconnectivity and seeing ourselves as a general resource or a specific resource available to the community that we are within might be interesting. lead to a question. I don't know. Thank you for letting me speak.
Yes, I think it's more than a question. I would say it's really something that pops up. We are part of the nodes of humanity, and we are connecting and being resourceful for others as others are a resource for us. And indeed, the way that we deal with those nodes of connectivity, in the end, will mark that progression towards the health hands. So thank you very much, Wendy. I totally subscribe your words.
Thank you, Wendy. Any other questions from the floor? I will just read one last question we have, Luis, and then we can do a small activity discussions. And Craig, I need your help with that. Okay, so the question is from Janavi. Thanks for the informative session. Are there any unique considerations when determining digital interventions or applications for salutogenesis, having a focus on mental health versus physical health? The question is for the intervention, salutogenesis intervention, do we focus on physical or mental health? Luis?
Well, thank you very much, Yanada. And I have some difficulties in creating these silos and saying that, mental health, physical health, and so on. Well, if we take the 4 dimensions from WHO, then you have the spiritual dimension, you have the social dimension, then you have the mental dimension, the physical dimension of the human being. So creating or looking at the digital interventions from just one aspect of it would make it rather difficult, because at least we are constantly working on those 4 dimensions. Now, taking again the example that I give, and I deal with it because it's something that has been on my desk for so many years. If you take smoking cessation, it's a spiritual dimension. If you take it from the physical perspective, you can take it from the social perspective. And of course, you can take it from the mental, psychological perspective. So when you are actually moving towards a health hand, and you want to help someone to get away from the disease hands, using any of those entries, spiritual entry, spiritual dimension, or physical dimension, etc., can be a trigger to move that person forward into the health hand. And so interventions, as they are built up, of course, they can focus more on one aspect or the other, but somehow, if we have a perspective, and if perspective, of course, then it would be difficult just to separate the focus and work on this or that one. So I would say that when we are dealing with intervention or applications, let's take care of the several dimensions of the human being, because no one is working in a single dimension. That is how I would put it. We have an holistic perspective.
Thank you, Luis. I just realized, George, you are here. Do you want to say something on the discussions, lively discussions we are having?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to give a short comment. First of all, a great 2 talks, and also I really liked how both speakers really put the things we were talking about in the concept of salutogenesis. Ger was much more talking certainly about e-health, which is explicitly designing interventions using digital tools for health promotion, which certainly is one way to go. Luis, on the other hand, he was much more emphasizing how the digital transformation of society at large will have an impact on our health, and how we could and should shape this digital transformation independent of digital health promotion interventions, but the whole transformation in a more health promoting way. And I think here again, Salutogenesis helps a lot, because I think we talked a lot in our field about health literacy lately. I think what we need now is really a kind of digital literacy, which would mean that people need to somehow comprehend what's out there. I mean, I saw a website with 3,000 different artificial intelligence applications already out now. I mean, that's incredible. So people need to understand what's really developing in this big world of artificial intelligence. So ChatGPT is just one single tool, but it's much, much bigger and broader. And here people need at least to get an understanding. Then secondly, manageability. They need to be able to select wisely what could help them to pursue their own purpose in life and to develop in a more positive way in their life, which tools could help them to make it more manageable. And I would say, I mean, Antonovsky always talked about participation as a key for meaningfulness. And participation certainly means there's not just a single person. This is, I also like this comment of Wendy, where you certainly made very clear that often salutogenesis is misunderstood as only this individualized concept, because this sense of coherence is certainly the individual perspective mostly of life, but really also, I mean, even certainly in the core concept of salutogenesis, Antonovsky made clear that we are very much dependent on this broader social context, and that leads me then how we can really make this digital transformation in a more health promoting way by doing it in more participatory ways. I think we really need to involve communities in making best use of these digital possibilities in a way which is really supporting communities in a positive development and not so much only driven by economic interests. So I think this is really the way to go, and would help us also to move beyond the pure individual focus.
I'm so glad you are here, George, and the way you have summarized what the two speakers have spoken, and also answer and acknowledge the comments made by the audience. It was brilliant. Thank you so much for doing that. That was actually Luis' job, so you have relieved Luis. You owe a coffee to George. So thank you so much, George, for doing that. So we have only left with about 15 minutes. We're supposed to have 30 minutes for an activity. So I think rather than doing an activity, such discussions, such lively discussions, I think these are more helpful for all of us to learn from each other. So I'm foregoing, with everybody's permission, to send you all into breakout rooms and then do the activity. What we will do is, because I think George has done a great summary, Luis, do you want to say a few words on the discussions today? Before we hear from everybody who is present here today, I have a question for everyone before we end this call today. Luis, do you want to share something?
Yeah, thank you very much, Jeffrey. But as you said, I think Björk just helped us very much in this task. Thank you very much, Björk. And I think we could take the time that is left to move on. Yeah, please.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Luis. So I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to write that in a chat. What I want is, if possible, unmute yourself. No need to on your cameras, but unmute and answer. Or if you, for whatever reasons, can't do that, just type, so that at least we can all learn from each other what is a take-home message. And Craig, you will be helping me with the next activity whenever we are planning the next webinar. So I'm taking your name down for that. Okay. So I'm going to read the question, and I'm also going to put that question in the chat now. The question is, imagine a future where digitalization has fully embraced salutogenesis principles. What would it look like, and how would it impact society and individuals? I know it's quite a mouthful, and there are two separate questions. Feel free to answer one, both. Unmute yourself to answer whatever works for you. I'll give you about 2 minutes to gather your thoughts, and then we'll start sharing. It can also be taken as a take-home message from today's webinar by each one of you. 2 minutes to gather your thoughts, and if you're ready earlier, feel free to shoot out. And it looks like, Craig, you are ready to answer.
Well, it's what I'm working on. So it's a digital personal assistant that nudges us to making the choices and build society that makes health the default.
Jake, I have seen you on your video. Thank you for that. Are you ready with your answer?
I'm typing something out, but I can speak it out instead if that would be preferred.
Please,
So
thank you, Jake.
I've been listening to colleagues thinking about this digital literacy, and I think my major scholarly critique would be that we've talked a lot about how to engage in a salutogenic health digital literacy that concerns navigating the right healthful digital resources. And I think where I would like to see this in the future is almost extending beyond the digital and thinking about how we can strengthen the sense of coherence to navigate what should be digital and indeed what should not be digital. That's something that various speakers have come through today, thinking about this idea that actually some parts of health must remain in person. And I feel that maybe strengthening sense of coherence in such a way that we could navigate those individual behaviors one by one, what should be digital and what should not be digital. I think that would be the salutogenic digital literacy for me.
Very well said, Jake. Yes, Shimon, please. Thank you.
Yeah, it's actually nice to be part of this conversation. And I sort of like notice there's sort of like a division. I mean, I've been following the international group. It seems like some people are more focused on thinking of salutogenesis and health creation, and others are more research and health promotion. So like Craig, I certainly share, and we've had many discussions, the approach of thinking about salutogenesis as thinking about and doing what actually creates health. And I'm actually also working on a project. I put a link to it. So if we do look at the river of life and preventing things downstream, should we not start at preconception? Should we not start where people are starting to be influenced by the environment, how it affects pregnancy and fetal life? Should we not start at a point where we think about nutrition? So that's actually the way I've been leveraging artificial intelligence, and I might say I'm actually quite proficient at it. I work with a team in Montreal, and we're actually not just using the large foundational models, we're actually developing stuff with agent and extensions. So I think the discussions about AI based on the way things were about 3 months ago or even 5 months ago misses the point, just like what we're missing the point, I think, in salutogenesis, is we're looking at someone who's 20 years old and thinking about changing their habits. It ain't gonna happen. And all this stuff about smoke cessation, show me the literature about the success of it and all the other things that we talk about. I'm a psychiatrist. I actually trained, Professor Antonovsky was one of my professors in Israel, and he also looked at the political realities that people live in. Should we not look at empowering people, where in essence, one of the biggest pathogenic issues is people feeling marginalized in a certain political and capitalist system? Should we not give people tools to engage within that system, to provide them a sense of understanding how they fit in? And actually, that's the project that I'm working on. I did put a link on. It's just at its beginning phases. And part of what I'm creating is also what's called the Salutogenic 360, which allows people to put themselves within their political ecosystem, their social ecosystem, and the various other systems that they exist in, because part of salutogenesis is a holistic interdisciplinary approach, and thinking about then, how do we empower them? And the various LLMs, the foundational model, whether it's AI chatbots, whether it's Claude, whether it's Bard, they all have tools to actually provide and engage people and empower them. So that's how I'm dealing with it.
Thank you very much, Shimon. That was incredible, and I fully agree. As a midwife, I know how important preconception care is, and I'm gonna be reaching out to you. Thank you, Bhavna. Yes, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Shafali. First of all, thank you so much for this session today. Both the presentations not only opened up our minds to a lot of, diverse thinking, but also gave us opportunities to think beyond what our own research serves as a comfort zone for us. So, as far as your question goes, as I said earlier, since my research is in the area of how the laws of nature give us an opportunity to enhance our health and well-being, I would want to see a future where we are able to document the undocumented, where we can take it to the international research community through digitalization, so that we can learn from these communities. So this can serve as a useful resource of learning, something that is out there in small communities all over the world, which we know little about, but we do know that they've been living lives that are close to nature. They've been living in terms of enhancing their health and well-being without really doing it with a lot of consciousness. They don't, as far as you would have, I want to quote here the research on blue zones, right? There has been a lot of research on blue zones and how there are certain small communities in the world that live well, live healthy, live longer without trying to do so. And it is a natural way of living for them. They don't try to have better longevity, they don't try to live healthier, or they don't try to get better, well-being indicators, but it is just their lifestyle, just the choices that they have as a community that makes all the difference. I think I would look towards a future where we are able to document more of such undocumented stuff that we have as wonderful resource around the world, and bring it to the world community of people like us who want to research, and as Simone just said, be able to do what enhances the health and well-being of people, to be able to empower people through that. There is a lot that we hear and read about research in the international circles these past few years, as the world research goes digital. We have so much more access to what is going on where in real time, but there are communities which we still may not have access to. Let us try and reach out, learn from them, and then digitalize that. I would look forward to a future which gives me that learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. That was very insightful. So I'm just gonna share. We have 5 minutes left for this webinar to end. So those who are still typing, please do that. I've confirmed we are saving this chat so that we as a Salutogenesis group come together and discuss the discussions further. And Valerie, I have seen you have raised your hand. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Chef Ali, for giving me the floor. And thank you for the very interesting discussions that we have had. I've learned a lot. So my point is, if I imagine a future where digitalization has fully embraced salutogenesis principles, I think that especially it will be more helpful because there is no way around digitalization right now. So we are either getting it on board, but there's no way to keep it out away from salutogenesis. So if it can be used for the good of people, especially, that will be something that we all should look forward to. But also, I think that at this point, there is a reasoning. I've been reading Craig's writings, and he writes about what is known as panneogenesis, which means like if you see his email that he put, it's be weller. So it's going beyond the status quo. So not just the good, but beyond good. And how do we get to that level that the status quo or just being good is not enough, but being really much better and making improvements in society? I think, I mean, he can shed more light on that kind of discussion, because us, people working on salutogenesis, we need to have a broad mind and embrace different reality or different ways of looking at it, and still to move towards the good of the people. Craig, do you have something to say? You know more about this. Please, just 1 minute. Thank you.
Do I have time to speak?
Please go ahead. Yes.
Well, thank you, Valerie. I appreciate your efforts. My focus has always been on pangenesis, which is creating all good by creating interactions so everyone and everything benefits, which I'm sorry if I say your name wrong, Bahat brought up earlier with nature, because we're interdependent on everything in life. So I have the salutogenic wellness promotion scale, which I would gladly use with people if it's for salutogenic purposes. It looks at physical, social, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, vocational, and environmental actions that generate health. And if you look through my research, you can see things that show it perform better at work, at life, and health. And also, you know what? Secondarily, they have less problems. That to me is salutogenesis. When we're first generating more good, less bad is a byproduct or consequence. And I have a lot of things I can share. So hopefully we can talk. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name, Shefali, and we can talk about how to build an interactive session. I would love to do that.
Thank you for
it would be a lot of fun.
Thank you for addressing my comments, Craig. This is Bhavna.
Oh.
Thank you, Bhavna.
Yeah, we
I
should
can
talk.
see the small community coming up. Thanks, Craig. So we have 1 more minute to go. Sorry, Craig, were you saying something? Did I cut you?
No, I just said thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, those who are still typing, don't leave, please finish your typing. We won't end the webinar so that you can save all the comments. And I hope you will look out for our future webinars, and the way I can see the discussions are happening look like we need to come back with part 2 of this salutogenesis and digitalization. And I especially see some themes coming up from the discussions, and we can especially either invite speakers or come together and do some activities and bring these discussions forward. And I really hope that you have enjoyed today's webinars as much as I have facilitating this webinar. Big thank you to Professor Gear. He's not, I think he has left a call, and also Luis, and each and every one of you. We started with 40 plus candidates. Today we are 28 of us now. Thank you very much for staying throughout these 3 hours with us. We sincerely appreciate your time, your discussions, your inputs, and stay tuned for the next round of webinars. And thank you. Wishing you all great days ahead. Thank you.